Alright guys, so in today's video I'm going to be reviewing my 1977 Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow 2 that I recently purchased. I'm going to show you guys a little bit about the outside, tell you about the history of the Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow, show you guys a little bit about the features on the interior, and we'll go over the engine for a little bit. So, Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. This was the predecessor to the Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud, which at the time was actually known as the best car in the world, highest end car in the world. Rolls-Royce today, still obviously top of the line, luxury automobile car manufacturers. But a lot of people don't know that Rolls-Royces today are actually made by BMW. Back in the day, they were made by the original Rolls-Royce crew factory, and they were known for making really good engines and jet airplane engines. So that's really where Rolls-Royce first got prominence, was their engines, and then eventually made luxury cars. And they, at the time, back in the day, early 1900s, were making the best cars in the world. Now, obviously, it's focused on luxury, but this car I recently purchased, and a lot of people don't realize that you could actually buy vintage, old school Rolls-Royce and Bentleys relatively cheap, but the problem is parts are hard to find. Mechanics to actually work on these cars are extremely difficult, and then labor is extremely specialized and expensive for these. So while you might be able to find Silver Shadows, for example, really nice ones like this, probably in the $50,000 to $80,000 range. Really shitty ones, even as low as $10,000. Even for just basic repairs on a car, you're gonna be spending probably $5,000 to $10,000 a year in regular maintenance, and then any type of repairs, sky's the limit as far as how much it's gonna cost to operate it. So this car, just to talk about its depreciation, based off the original registration, this car was purchased for $48,885 in 1997, which translated to today's dollars in 2024 is about $236,000, maybe $250,000, somewhere in there. Obviously, this was an expensive car back in the day, not so expensive now. It's pretty expensive to maintain and run. Not the world's most reliable vehicle either. A few things that I particularly like about this car. The entire body is coach built in one piece. There are no seams anywhere on the panels, fenders, or anything like that. Every single piece of this car is chrome or metal. Obviously, we have some rubber pieces like the bumpers here and a couple of the switches, but for the most part, you're always touching wood, leather, or chrome. Good looking side profile. Obviously, a lot of chrome, sort of hidden door handles, little key. Chrome hubcaps with the Rolls-Royce on it. They don't rotate like the new Rolls-Royces. Technology wasn't quite that good at the time. Then backside of the car, super British looking, unlike the Silver Spirit that I have, which is very 1980s boxy looking. I think this has more of a timeless design, and this was the most purchased, most sold Rolls-Royce of history at the time. So when you think of a Rolls-Royce back in the day, this is probably the car that comes up in your mind. So a few features about the inside of this car. The best thing about Rolls-Royces is obviously the interiors, leather, wood, and metal on pretty much every surface that you touch. There's really minimal plastic because it was all premium materials at the time. All of the leather seats are Connolly leather hides. If any of you guys are into like old school leather, Connolly was like the best manufacturer at the time, and they actually ended up going bankrupt or closing down, so it's almost impossible to find like this quality leather. A few things in this car that were ahead of its time. One is power locks. This really was not a common thing back in the 1960s, 1970s. Then obviously wood here. We have an adjustable armrest that goes up and down. Every single Rolls-Royce has a matching wood dashboard to the wood on all of the doors going around to the back side. So each of these are exactly matched based off the wood grain, and they flow perfectly. And then they claim that in the factories they have like exact replacement pieces or exact wood veneers that match this in case you had to replace it. I don't know if that's actually true. Jay Leno also doesn't believe that's true, even though they say that. So we do have the original radio, original cassette player. There's no automatic lights. If we want to turn on the headlights, we have a manual switch. We do have power windshield washers, which is cool. Like I mentioned, this is a museum quality car where every single thing on this works as it should in original. Speedometer only goes up to 140 miles an hour. I really doubt this goes much higher than probably like 100 miles an hour, and I'm probably not gonna push it there ever. Oil pressure gauges, voltage gauges, water temperature, things like that. This is the driver's stick, which is extremely easy to put into drive, put into park, and surprisingly on that we do have cruise control. Then we got standard things down here, hazard lights, air conditioner controls, air conditioner auto, which actually does work. These are the sensors up here that checks the ambient temperature, and surprisingly it works really well. The antenna that you see outside is manually controlled down here. Boom. We have totally metal air conditioning things, which they still have today in all the brand new Rolls Royces. Now, this is my favorite part of the car. So down here, we have these nice wood. This is custom thing that was made by the coach builder, I believe, that has Rolls Royce embedded with gold leaf, which is pretty cool. And these are cup holders, ashtrays, cigarette lighter or cigar lighter, as they say. And then these are the power adjustments for the seats. Huge flex. Most Rolls Royces of this age, they do not work. They do work here. In the middle here, this is actually a fold-up liquor cabinet with custom Rolls Royce crystals, shot glasses, and of course, your Rolls Royce flasks to match. And if I had to take a guess, that is probably not legal today, but back in the day, I guess you could drink while you chill in your car. All right, now next, let's talk about the back seats. Extremely comfy sitting position. We do have our little lights and makeup window mirror back here. A little pull tab to help you get yourself inside and outside of the car. And then more custom stuff that we have in this particular vehicle, Rolls-Royce drink holder. And the previous owner of this was nice enough to put club sodas in here. And then of course the same Rolls-Royce matching glasses. On the floors, we do have these carpeted footrests, same leather trim on them. And these are little footrests. And then I didn't mention this in the front, but we do have lamb's wool, big, thick carpets here that are really comfy if you're barefoot. And we got power windows, door locks, obviously seat belts, and a fold-up centerpiece here. They easily have the best interiors of all the classic cars. So like I mentioned, there's wood, leather, pretty much everywhere that you look. Now I'll show you guys the trunk too. And obviously chrome around the taillights and things like that. Big Rolls Royce, so people know you're better than them. Just kidding. Now in the trunk, same thing. Everything's covered with carpet that has leather trim. Everything's in really good condition. And I have this really cool Spirit of Ecstasy umbrella that the previous owner let me keep. We have a jack in there, batteries over in there. So final thing to talk about this is the engine. Now this is a 6.75 liter V8, which I believe generates less than 200 horsepower. Just kind of hilarious on how big of an engine this is. Now Rolls-Royce actually never came out with official horsepower readings. They always just describe their power with the cars as adequate. As far as reliability though, these cars really aren't reliable at all. I'd literally owned this for probably 2 weeks and I already had to get the carburetors rebuilt because the floats got stuck, if you guys know anything about cars. So this car has a hydraulic suspension and braking system that uses special .4 fluid that only Rolls-Royce makes. Now, it's really just .4 fluid with 10% of it being castor oil, but it's extremely expensive to buy the original RR363. So a lot of people just do the mix of it. But like I mentioned, you can see pretty much everything on here is extremely clean and well kept. Everything's exposed, unlike today where they have, you know, big engine covers and things like that. All right, let's talk about how this thing drives. So it is extremely smooth. Like this steering wheel, you could literally turn with one finger. And the hydraulic suspension is extremely good. Definitely not a sporty car though. A lot of people talk shit and say that the car has a ton of body roll, which it does if you're going fast around corners. But again, this car's not made to go fast around corners. But a huge problem is that these seats do not have any bolsters to hold you in place. So even though there's body roll when you're cutting a corner, it feels like you're just sliding all around the place in your seat. With that being said, seats are extremely comfy. The actual sitting position of this car, it gets really made well if you're trying to go on a long ride and have a luxurious feel. There's a lot of space both in the front seat and the back seat. But I will say the car doesn't seem as big as it appears on camera. So like when you're in person, it's actually a pretty small, regular sedan sized car rather than the Silver Cloud or like a Rolls-Royce Phantom today that's so huge and massive. Gas mileage of this car, I have been checking it with, you know, how many gallons that I fill up and how many miles I do get on the speedometer. I average about 8 miles per gallon. It seems the quoted amount that Rolls-Royce actually gave you was 8 to 10 miles per gallon, 10 miles being on the highway. That seems to be holding true driving around town. And I do daily drive this Rolls-Royce, unlike 98% of Rolls-Royce owners who you know, take this car for a spin. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like this content, make sure to like and subscribe. I do a lot of real estate content, and then I'm gonna be doing reviews on the other Rolls Royces as well. Now that I'm part of the Rolls Royce Owners Club, be doing a lot of the videos there too. Peace.